Hey guys, Chris here. I'm a Ukrainian Canadian. Today is August 18th, 2023. And let's get to the news happening in Ukraine, shall we? Let's get to the map updates. There's a few. So, first of all, in Orikhiv axis, where the Ukrainians are continuously pushing towards Robotyne, flanking the Russians there, there's some good news that yesterday the Ukrainian forces have shut down two Ka-52 helicopters. Now, allegedly, I haven't seen confirmation yet of the second Ka-52 helicopter being shut down, but at least there's one that can be visually confirmed to have been shut down, and even the pro-Russian sources confirmed that, and we have now video proof of it. So you can see that there's two images I posted here. Basically, the first one is the moment of the impact against the Ka-52 helicopter, and the helicopter then eventually going down to where it belongs. And it was interesting that it was being trailed by what looks like to be a Mi-24 helicopter. Now, I'm not really sure if that's exactly the Mi-24, but nonetheless, you can see the result of the impact. Now, unfortunately, I think the pilot was able to eject, which is kind of rare for helicopters, but the Ka-52 does have that capability of allowing the pilot to eject. So overall, there's one thing that it confirms is that we've been hearing last few weeks that the Russians have complained a lot about their lost capability in counter battery fire. And so this likely means that they need to fly these helicopters closer to the front line. And as you can see, this helicopter was shut down between Robotyne and Novoprokopivka. So quite close to the front line where the Ukrainians are currently pushing. And so this means that they need to fly closer and closer to bother the Ukrainian convoys and Ukrainian forces advancing, and that makes them extremely vulnerable for man-pads. And the result of this crash was a Ukrainian soldier who fired a man-pad. So that's great, and that means that there's going to be much less helicopters flying in the nearby future. In terms of Velyka Novosilka, again, it's been reported and confirmed that Orikhiv has been fully liberated by the Ukrainian forces. Now, as you can see, they're pushing towards Zavitne Bazhanya. Deep State has updated the map. And so now some Russian sources are saying that because they have incurred so many losses in Orikhiv just to defend a small little village, basically, and I showed you previously, Ukrainian forces using cluster munitions against a company of Russian soldiers that were retreating from Orikhiv, devastating them. They are now complaining that they have been so weakened that they probably won't be able to hold on to Zavitne Bazhanya. And so most likely, at least, I'm very hopeful that the Ukrainians will be able to take this village quicker than expected. And just another reminder to all of you, my viewers, and even to myself, when we're asking ourselves questions about why is it so slow, why are the Ukrainians, not capable of, they're not in Tokmak or Melitopol by now, And this is a reminder for you. This picture on the right is a picture from Ukrainian soldiers somewhere on the front line in the south, basically indicating how the Russians have mined these fields. And this is just basically 1 square meter. And you can see that there are 7 PMN4 mines, so they're pressure mines, very tiny ones, and hard to find them, right? If you're driving a vehicle, a tank, you probably won't see it. Very likely you won't see it. If you're a foot soldier, maybe. And you can see there's also a TM62 mine, which is usually meant for bigger targets. So this is what Ukraine is fighting against, right? Every time they're advancing, they're gaining ground. They also have to pay attention all the time because basically the Russians have saturated, the scumbags that they are, they have saturated these entire farm fields. They're some of the most fertile fields on the planet with, I don't know, millions of mines at this point. If that's what we're seeing, 8 mines per square meter, and there's hundreds of thousands of square meters to liberate, Ukraine has a lot of work ahead of itself once it liberates Zaporizhia and Kherson, and eventually also Eastern Ukraine, Donbass and Luhansk. So there's a lot of work to be done, and that's going to be decades worth of work, unfortunately. Now, more positive news, and I reported that yesterday night, is that the Ukrainian beavers went to work yet again in Moscow. And so this proves yet again that Russia is unable to defend its own sky, despite them claiming that they've shut down these drones. But you can see that this drone or these drones have hit their intended target. So it was the Expo City Exhibition Center, which is very close to the Moscow Business Center. So there was a lot of panic in Moscow yesterday. People were filming from all different directions, and they were panicking. And so you can see the aftermath of this explosion that happened in the Expo City Center. And, even if Russia claims that they've shut down this drone, I think it's BS, because this was a legitimate target. And the reason why, as you can see, is that there was the Army 2023 exhibition that was being hosted this week in this Expo City Center. And so this is basically Russia showcasing its latest military tech and innovations, probably trying to sell its weapons to the global market. So this was a huge hit, because Russia also draws a lot of its income source from selling and exporting arms to China, North Korea, to Iran, Syria, many other countries, even India. So hitting these Expo City, these exhibitions that Russia is hosting, is extremely important, and it is a very legitimate target. And also, let's not forget the psychological aspect of it, to remind the Muscovites that they're not that far away from the war, and that Ukraine is indeed capable of striking the targets it wants, even in Moscow. And lastly, this is the general or commander, I don't even know who he is now, Khodakovsky. So he was in charge of defending Orikhiv with the Vostok Battalion. And so now he's complaining, realizing the amount of losses they've incurred in Orikhiv and now Zavitne Bazhanya. He's saying that they will not be able to, the Russian army, to defeat Ukraine militarily now or in the nearby future, which is, again, very telling of the state of affairs within the Russian military. So he says here that I do not foresee the easy occupation of cities either, because also the locals, the Ukrainian locals, are not willing to participate and help the Russian soldiers, and they have been complaining a lot. Even the volunteers are coming from Russia that are helping. The Russian soldiers are complaining that the Ukrainian locals do not partake, do not help, and they actually hate them. I wonder why. After several Bakhmuts and Mariupols, I think they should kind of understand that the Ukrainians will not stop at attacking them. And so now it is the only hope that he mentions Russia has, is to have some sort of truce between Russia and Ukraine. Well, newsflash, a truce only works if both sides want it. It doesn't work what only one side wants, and that's Russia right now. Russia wants to buy time to rearm itself. And so it would be a huge mistake if Ukraine was to go on a truce with Russia, and clearly they will not. They understand what's at stake here, and Ukraine will not negotiate with terrorists, because Russia is a terrorist state, and they have no reason to stop fighting right now, because Ukraine has the momentum, it has the initiative on most of the front line, except maybe the Kupiansk line, where yes, the Russians are pushing a little bit, but so far they haven't been able to really distract the Ukrainian advancements and the Ukrainian army in the south. So when they have the momentum, there is no reason for Ukraine to stop, and Ukraine will get to decide when they're done with Russia. This is no longer a story of when Russia decides that they're done with Ukraine. It's Ukraine that decides it, because Ukraine has the momentum, and Ukraine will obliterate the Russian army until the very, very end. It doesn't matter if Ukraine doesn't receive any help from its allies, from the United States. You know that the Ukrainians will fight until the very end. I'm very 100% certain of that. So that's the video for today, guys. Again, as I mentioned in my last video, I will be away for the next 2 weeks. Very likely I will not be making regular videos for the next 2.5 weeks. Maybe I'll throw 1 or 2 videos if there's some huge updates that I need to make. But rest assured, as I come back in early September, I will get back to my regular schedule. So I really appreciate your support, not only to my channel, but to the Ukrainian cause. Please help fund these Ukrainian drones that are successfully flying to Russia. Help the Ukrainian cause as much as you can. This is my only demand for you, if you can do that, of course. And if you enjoy my content, please subscribe to my channel, like my videos, and leave me a comment about what you thought about this video. So thank you so much. I appreciate your support, and Slava Ukraini!